My name is Doug Elms. I'm the founder of SafeHaven Security Group. We started about 10 years ago. I've had a career in law enforcement and corporate security for the world's largest company. And what I recognized was that you shouldn't have to be the world's largest company or extremely wealthy to protect yourself, your family, and your company. So myself, a couple other career security professionals, we founded SafeHaven Security Group to support people who are at risk with a couple of things. One is uniform security. The second big part of our business is behavioral threat assessment and management. And the third, what we're talking about today, is executive and family protection. We approach executive protection from a little bit more of an intellectual standpoint, much like the Secret Service protects the United States President. We want to assess the risk to those high-risk people first. And risk could come from a variety of areas. It could be that CEO is a controversial person. They make controversial statements. They're always out in the public. That's one example. But it might be that they're a low-key executive, but they're going to participate in a high-risk event, maybe traveling to a high-risk location inside the U.S. or outside the U.S. Once we understand the risk associated with an executive or an at-risk person, we then work to mitigate those risks. If we can eliminate those risks, then there's no need for bodyguards and black Suburbans and helicopters and things like that. So could we change venues that created a more safe environment? Time of day, the day of the week, the way you travel to those locations could be altered. We come across companies all the time where they put their chief executive officer and half of the executives on the same airplane to travel to some location. And we recommend things like, let's mitigate that risk by, why don't you put half your direct reports on the same plane, but the other half need to travel on another plane. If you're in a foreign country, the food that you eat may or may not be prepared the way that you're used to and could cause you to get sick. If you're in a foreign country, are there English-speaking doctors who are readily available to take care of you, whether it's a serious incident or you just got the flu? There's a lot of steps in mitigation that we approach to understand what those risks are, then to mitigate those risks, to eliminate them, so you may not need a full contingent of what people call bodyguards or executive protection agents. A lot of risks are mitigated through planning logistics. I protected an executive who said, gosh, I really don't like security, but as a CEO, I get twice as much done because you're with me and you have the cars planned, the airplanes planned. We know where we're going for meetings. We know where we're going for meals. I'm in and out, and you protect my time. So that's another benefit of coordinated executive protection. Based on the culture of the company or the CEO themselves, they may not want somebody traveling with them unless it's a very high-risk environment. In the meantime, is your executive assistant aware of potential risk? Communications that come through the office that may sound a little strange and raise a little curiosity. Do your pilots understand what to do in a medical situation when you're out traveling? Do the people that go with you understand phone numbers and local hospitals? And so we also train those people around executives, housekeepers, pilots, drivers, assistants, to kind of be part of the executive team. They're there already, and they're great eyes and ears, and they can surface concerns that maybe the executive doesn't see. The third step is really protection, and that might be because of an event, a shareholders meeting, a board of directors meeting, or some other kind of high risk that you do need security. You do need to control access to the venue that you're in. You need to control who's driving cars and getting everybody to the right place. So there are protective measures, and sometimes those are visible, sometimes those are less visible. It really is a conversation that we have with the person who's being protected about what fits their lifestyle and their corporate culture the best. The need for executive protection has really changed in 2024 and 2025. There's some high-profile cases that occurred. One was a United Healthcare CEO who was murdered in New York City. Another prominent one was the Charlie Kirk assassination. There's been others. And so when things like that happen, there's often copycat who also want to gain fame by committing a crime. After those two incidents, boards of directors have changed their opinion, and instead of allowing CEOs just to say yes or no, I want security, boards of publicly traded companies have mandated assessments related to executive protection, and then mandated different levels of security for CEOs. Over the last couple of years, there's not only been copycats, but just independent targeted violence at executives. We know that there's about 1,000 in the last 2 years where there's been targeted violence at CEOs of companies. As you take a deep dive into workplace violence, that most active shooters in workplaces come from two primary areas. One is terminated employees. The second is domestic violence that spills over into the workplace. So while they're may or may not be directly targeted at the CEO, you want to create a work environment where everyone is safe. So just like other areas of your business, you probably test your business. We work with organizations and conduct crisis tabletop exercises. And so whether it's harm to your CEO or business disruptions, targeted violence in the workplace, a medical emergency with a key person, we'll work with you and your key decision makers to put you under pressure in a safe environment, at a tabletop, where you can see, are your people really prepared for such a crisis? And is the communication appropriate? Do you have the right decision makers? And then you get to understand your organization's strengths and weaknesses in a safe environment so that when you actually do have a crisis, you're better prepared.